Next, let's look at the relational context of equality matching, which is in stark contrast to the authority ranking model. So, equality matching is not all about peace and love. It does include the friendly notions of equal opportunities, equal shares, and turn taking. It also covers eye for an eye revenge, which can escalate to troubling levels. Equality matching underscores various notions of retaliatory justice and punishment, including the death penalty. In the equality matching relational context, deviations from the moral motive of equality are met with moral judgments that aim to restore equality. So if some action made us unequal, it's considered wrong, and to make it right, we can make it more equal. Equality matching can include one-for-one matching, achieving a statistical balance through randomization, like in the lottery, taking turns, and other behaviors that can fix, but sometimes introduce morally questionable outcomes. Finally, the last relational context is market pricing context. And the moral motive here is proportionality. In this context, you get something proportional to what you put in. Market pricing contexts involve using rates and ratios to compare otherwise non-comparable goods. For example, using money in a marketplace to exchange products between buyers and sellers. So are we talking about good and evil still here, moral psychology? We are. Proportionality is the moral motive, and it aims to ensure that costs and benefits for each party are appropriate to their contributions. It avoids exploitation. Cheating is the primary violation here that's to be avoided. When money is brought into the mix in any relationship, that turns things into a market pricing context. And proportionality will calibrate action in the market pricing context. And this is not the case, for example, in communal sharing contexts. So in a market pricing context, people are going to put in less effort when they're paid a very low amount. Compare that to a communal sharing context where people are paid absolutely nothing and still motivated to put in effort. People prefer monetary bonuses to be allocated in this proportional manner according to input and not equally among all employees. But if we're talking about non-monetary perks like food or a vacation, people tend to be fine with equal allocation. So money turns things into a market pricing context and motivates a concern about proportionality. This isn't to say that proportionality is pursued only by trading with money. Proportionality calibrates actions in many different ways whenever we exchange one good or service, for example, for its proportional equivalent. So let's review these four relational contexts. The communal sharing relational model says what's mine is yours and what's yours is mine. Your pain is my pain and your well-being is my well-being. And the moral motive here is unity, keeping everyone together. Next, the authority ranking relational model. Here, what's right is what keeps us in our roles in this hierarchy. In the equality matching structure, the people in the relationship might not be perfectly equal. One might be a victim and the other a perpetrator, for example, but the overarching moral motive is equality in terms of outcomes. Equality matching is how people rectify unfair allocations, or in the case of retaliation and revenge, that they attempt to equalize the damages on both parties. Finally, in the market pricing relational context, it's understood that one object, service, or experience is traded for its symbolic equivalent. And this could be money or credit, but it doesn't have to be money or credit. We use proportionality in market pricing contexts. It's how we do business. And these contexts don't tend to mix well with communal sharing contexts. So we can look at all these different relational models and moral motives and how they fit together. So what does this leave out? What moral concerns and judgments can a person make if these relational models are not in existence? So on Ryan Fisk's account of moral judgment as relationship regulation, if there is no relationship motivation, if one of these four models is not in existence, then you should have moral indifference. What does it mean to be outside these relational models and to experience moral indifference? Are we just talking about non-moral evaluations, more mathematical or quantitative evaluations? In their view, moral indifference is much different, and they give the example of a group of men in the Philippines, the tribal group, the Ilonggot, who, when grieving, morose, or otherwise socially cut off or diminished from the group, they, quote, felt no compunctions about seeking catharsis by cutting off the heads of strangers. And they were celebrated with a party and honored for this. And in their view, this is extreme moral indifference about life. But what they're proposing at a more moderate level is that without social connections of various compositions, communal sharing, equality matching, market pricing, the hierarchies in our lives, people will be unmotivated to restrain themselves from acting badly to strangers or to motivate themselves to be charitable to strangers.